Hello, this is Vikas. I'm going to make a concept video on the topic of for loop using range functions in Python. I'm from CSC Data Science Department. The topic is about for loop using range functions. Now, first, let's discuss about for loop. Like, what is for loop? The for loop in Python is used to iterate over a sequence. Like, for loop is used in Python to iterate over a sequence like list, tuple, string, or other iterable objects, like anything like list, tuple, string, and etc. List is in a square box which are represented, and tuple is in a string is coded in double quotes. Iterating over a sequence is called transversal. Two types of writing for loops, like we can write for loop with help of two types, like getting each element of sequence. First one. The second one is by using range function. By generating range of numbers and use these numbers as indexes to access sequences. Like we can write two types of for loops. First one is getting each element of sequence. Second one is like using range function. Now let's first discuss about getting each element of sequence. Let's divide in type one of for loop. Like syntax for loop. For loop is like for type for value in sequence and with a semicolon colon body of for loop. Here val is the variable that takes values of the item inside the sequence on each item. Loop continues until we reach the last item in the sequence. The body of for loop is separated from rest of the code using indentation. Like if you want to differentiate for loop and normal sentences, we use an indented block, which is of a tab or a four space block. For the syntax of for loop is like per value and a variable in is used and the sequence with a colon and then a body of for loop is written with a indentation. Indentation should be of four spaces or a tab. Now let's take an example. We need to print each fruit in a list. Like a list is given, which contains apple, banana, and cherry. Three strings of list is given, like apple, banana, cherry. So the first line, it's given. This next line, for x in fruits. So each element of fruits, each string of fruit is stored in x. So we then in the next line with the indentation, we need to print x. The output of x will be apple, in the next line banana, in the next line cherry. The reason for this is fruits, list of fruit, a list of variables like fruits. It is a variable which contains a list elements, and that is stored in X, and that we are printing so that we are getting the value. Now, like flowchart of for loop, for each item in sequence, when we go last item reached, yes, then we exit the loop. Till the last item is reached, you continue iterating over it. Until the last item is reached, you can exit the loop then. This is the flowchart of for loop. Now iterating over string. Like in the last, in this program, we have checked through iterating over a list. Like a list is given how to use a for loop. In the next, you will be seeing iterating over a string. Like even string are iterable objects. Like string, tuple, all are iterable objects. They contain a sequence of characters. Example, loop through the letters in word banana. Like we'll excrete each letter of banana using a loop. Like let's see, for x in bananas, like loop through through the letters in the word. For x in bananas, like a banana is stored in X, print X. Like every letter in banana will be printed. Like the output will be B, and in the next line A, in the next line N, in the next line A, in the next line N, in the next line A. So each line, each letter will be printed of banana. That's the use of for loop. And mainly for loop should after the colon we need to give an indentation. In some IDs, while we are solving the code, the indented block will be automatically coming. But in some IDs, it does not come, so we need to use indentation. Indentation is like a tab or space of four spaces. Now type 2 of for loop. Like let's revise what we have done in the first one. Like loop. Now let's again revise. Like what is loop? The for loop in the Python is used to iterate over a sequence, like list, tuple, or string, anything. Like we have two types of loops. Where the first, now we have discussed about first one, getting each element of sequence without using range functions. Like it's not a built-in function of range. Like it's not a built-in function like range. Range is a built-in function, so we may use that in the second part. Like now let's do a first one ka syntax है per variable in sequence, and then a body of variable will be given. Like you have seen two examples of that, and flowchart. Until the last item is reached, the loop continues on going. If the last item is reached, then the loop will be exited. Like until last item, loop will be going on continuing. When the last item is reached, the loop will get exited. Now, like we have used to iterate over a string and a list, the two examples, the output is like I've told you the output. The second two, the main one is like the range function. We can generate a sequence of numbers using range function. Range 10 will generate numbers from 0 to 9, 10 numbers. We can also define the start, stop, step size as range. Start, stop, step size. Step size defaults to 1 if not provided. To force this function to output all the items, we can use the function list. Like what is range function? Let's see. Range function syntax is like range of start, stop, and step. Start and step are not required compulsorily, but stop value must be compulsory. Start step size is like default. If we don't mention anything, the start value will start from 0. Then the same way, if we don't mention anything in step size, the value will be of 1. So let's take some examples how the range function works. Now, let's take the first one. Normally in Python, hashtag is used to comment. Like the comment which we are using in hashtag will not be used, will not be interpreted. It's just a comment. So after that, the output range of 0 to 10, print range of 10. The output will be, it contains a list. Like in the next line, we are printing list of range of 10. So the output will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The 10 will be not there because this in the stop value, the number which we are taking in the stop value, that value will be not counted. So we this all the output is given in the list. See here in the first program, we have only mentioned start and stop value, but we didn't mention step size. but it's a default value. The default value is 1. But in the next program, we have mentioned the step size range 2,8. No, in the first one we have started from 0 to 10, but in the second question we have started from 2 and ended at 8. The output will be 2 to 7, not 8, because the 8 value will be not included. So the output it will be in the list format because we have printed it in the list format. The output will be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The same way in the third program we have used three variables: start, stop, and step. In top two we didn't use step size, but the default value is taken. In the below one we have used step size 3. That means suppose if we take a value 2, 3, 4 values will be taken out and the next value will be printed 5. Same way the output 2, 5, 8, 11, 14, 17. Example to use range function in for loop. Like just we have used what now we have used got to know what is range function and what are the variables we parameters in range function like start, stop, and step. Now let's use it in for loop. Now the program is to find to iterate through a list using indexing. We have taken a list of pop, rock, jazz. Iterating over the list using index. For I in range, len. Len is a built-in function which is used to calculate the length of a variable. Length of gen. Print I like gen of I. Square matrix of I means it's a string list indexing. So when we run the program, the output will be the first in the first iteration, length of gen. Gen is of length 3. So for 0 is in the first iteration, print I like gen of 0. Gen of 0 is pop. So in the first iteration, it will print I love pop. Same. 0 is completed. Now 1. Gen of 1. I like rock. Gen of 2. I like jazz. This is the output. Now syntax: range of start index, index, and step size. Now let's see. The first print the output of numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It prints the output of that. For x in range 5, if we give, like see in this, start index is not mentioned, step size is not mentioned. Only the end index is mentioned. So the default start index will be of 0 and the step size will be of 1. This is like, if you take start index and step size, it's not necessary. Only the end index is necessary. In the second program, for x in range 3 to 6, 3, 6, print x. Here we have mentioned start index and index, but step size is not. In the below one, we have mentioned 3. Start, step, and end index. In the second program, the output will be 3, 4, 5. In the third one, the output will be 3, 5, 7. Here start is the starting number of the sequence, inclusive. Stop is the ending number of the sequence, exclusive, and step is the difference between each number in the sequence. For example, the following code block can print the numbers from 0 to 4. For I in range 0 to I in range 5, print I. Here indentation is visible of 4 spaces or a tab. The output will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. We can also we can also like for I in range 0 comma 9 comma 2 print I, the output will be 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. The use of range function. The range function can be used to generate a sequence of numbers that can be used for in a for loop. The range function is very useful because it allows us to generate a sequence of numbers without having to manually type them all out. This can save us a lot of time and make our code more efficient. In addition to generate a sequence of numbers, the range function can also be used to control the number of loop times the loop is executed. For example, the following block will print hello world program for 5 times. Let's see. For I in range 0, 5 print hello world. The output will be hello world printed for 5 times. Like let's go here. Why the outputs here are in one line in the next, why the outputs are in lots of lines is because here we have used the list function, but there we have not used the list function. So that's why the output is in different lines. If here also, if you don't use the list function, the output will be in different lines, like 0 in the first line, 1 in the second line, 3 in the fourth, 3 in the third line, 4 in the fifth line, 5 in the fifth line, so on. Like range function is more useful in for loop, like it is used in for loop. The difference between for loop and while loop is this: the range function is more effective. That's why lots of people use for loop. That's why while loop is getting less. Like start index is not required exactly. Start and step size, but end index need to be required. In start index, it is inclusive, and end index it is not inclusive. The same point is mentioned here. Here start is the starting number of the sequence. Inclusive, stop is the ending number of the sequence. Inclusive and step is the difference between each number in the sequence. For example, that we have seen the previous one for variable in range, and there it will be a colon in range start comma stop comma step, and in indented and a closed of block to be executed. The output will be the same way. Now let's be in the conclusion. The for loop using range function is powerful tool to iterate over a sequence of numbers and perform operations on them. It is a fundamental concept in Python programming and is used extensively in many different applications. Understanding how to use the range function can help you write more efficient and effective Python code. Like the range function is used to write effective and more effective codes. Like it will reduce our number of lines and also makes us easy to write the code. Thanks for interest in showing for loops in Python. Is there anything like thank you one and all. This is the about for loop using range function. Thank you one and all.